His name, Merlin.
What's going on, knights, lords, and magicians everywhere across the kingdom of Camelot? My name is V, your humble sage of the Nomadic lion tribe within the Pyramid Inn, giving you another taste of Merlin Weekly reviews, going back into the premiere with part 2 of the Tears of Uther Pendragon. Now, since this is the second part, allow me to go into the full synopsis for you guys now that all the episodes have been kept up from parts 1 and part 2. Now, as stated in part 1, this is jumping a year after the events of season 2, where they're just now finding Morgana after Morgause takes her away, after a huge, mysterious, mystical plague strikes all of Camelot, where it's a sleeping curse that leads to death for the citizens of Camelot by Morgause's demands, which could only be stopped if Merlin poisoned Morgana. And yet Morgana ends up being saved by Morgause, her sister, and now is plotting with her sister to overthrow all of Camelot by using mandrake plants to drive Uther insane with visions of all his past deeds during the purge of mysticism, including the death of his wife after having the old religion magicians bring forth Arthur into reality by using magic to bring forth the future great king of Ambien. So now with the whole mandrake seed going in, Morgause is getting a renegade king of Senred to try and do a siege upon Camelot, with their noble king now going into full flustered and very deranged sense of all things psychological, leaving just Arthur in charge as the stead king, since we all know he's a prince right now, to try and make sure he saves all of Camelot. And Merlin is trying to stop Morgana and Morgause while keeping up the charade of being merely a servant boy to Arthur, but cannot give away his magical talents because the more his enemies know, the more hard it will be for him to make sure that not only his future, but Arthur's future will end up crumbling before their very eyes, even though it's foretold within the great schism of all mysticism that Merlin and Arthur will bring in a new age of magic for all of Ambien, aka Europe, motherfuckers! Now, aside from that whole 2-minute 45-second beautiful soliloquy of all things that's been going on for part 1 and part 2, that's what's basically the big synopsis for the Tears of Pendragon part 1 and part 2, where it's only that big setup for the new status quo, with there being a year time gap between how we left off stuff in season 2, with Merlin now learning that he's not only a magician but also basically a dragon lord, which is like the British equivalent of a dragonborn in Scandinavian lore, where he is very much a much more powerful magician, as well as being bound to being blood brothers with Kilgar, aka the Great Dragon, aka John Hurt Dragon, who will be able to come to Merlin for active advice that's not in the cave, where they will have a sibling relationship where they can actually conversate and have a back and forth that's not captor, captee, or seeker and seekee, or just mouthpiece and MacGuffin. They can actually have a real life relationship. The thing between Merlin and Arthur is actually forming into a real-life brotherhood that actually feels more genuine than what it was in the first 2 seasons, where the first one was just them at odds because new environment, new rules, big prophecy about their lives. Season 2, just getting into that whole jokey friendship matter that wasn't really cemented until later events, where now season 3 is allowing them to have a real life relationship of that of brothers, where they can be mad at the other and be wise with the other the next moment. They can be in each other's corner, but make fun of all the ridiculous stuff that they do if it doesn't really correlate with what they know about them in the big grand scheme of things. It goes into a brand new thing about how Merlin and Arthur in the Arthurian lore actually do have a solid connection. But also, it touches on the Arthur and Gwendolyn sort of mentality of there being a blossoming romance that's actually being cemented here and there in small increments with longing glances. Arthur trying to make sure that Gwen doesn't call him her liege or her sire or just anything except her Arthur, because there is a romance blooming. But the big status quo that's changing up is that of the ongoing battle between who will be the one to bring in the new age of light or darkness between Merlin and Morgana, where Morgana is starting to come into her Arthurian lore counterpart of being Morgana Le Fay, or we'll learn her real lineage in this series, which is going to be a huge revelation as well as a big turnaround for what's going to be the mainstay for the series afterwards. Where because they're so similar as light and dark, it's a good backgammon of which one will come out on top, which one will succeed, which one will be the victor at the end of the day, and which one will be able to be like, ha! It was my way that was successful all along. My justice is supreme. Kind of like, and I don't mean to go off topic with this, but kind of like how most detective or noir type series work. It does that in a very profound and poetic way that I have enjoyed season 3 as my second favorite season of all time because of how much it paves the way for a lot of good story development, character development, and a lot of witty humor. But we're gonna see what happens when you have too much raunchy humor in episode 3 of Goblin's Gold, which we will talk about next week. So to all my knights and lords out there, remember to keep your kingdoms very well protected, but have no purge for all of your magical uses. And to my sorcerers, enchantresses, and all things magical within the land of Ambion, I only wish that you all have a very mystical day. My name has been V, this has been Merlin Weekly, and I will see you all next week.